Listen up, Switch fans. We've got some serious games to talk about today. These aren't your typical ports or remasters from 5 years ago. I'm talking about fresh releases that actually matter. Games that justify your console purchase, whether you're rocking the original Switch or eyeing that shiny Switch 2. So Konami finally did something right and brought back these legendary JRPGs from the 90s. If you've never heard of Suikoden, think political drama meets Pokemon, but instead of catching creatures, you're recruiting 108 different characters to build your army. The first game starts simple. You're the son of a general who discovers his father's empire has turned corrupt. Your dad becomes this tyrannical ruler, and you end up leading a rebellion against everything you once believed in. It's basically Star Wars, but with medieval politics and way more backstabbing. The second game picks up 3 years later, and honestly, this is where the series peaks. You play as childhood friends who get caught in a border war, make a truce, then watch everything fall apart when someone breaks that peace. The friendship dynamic between you and your best friend Joey creates some genuinely heartbreaking moments. These games invented the idea that your choices in RPGs could actually matter before Mass Effect was even a thought.
Character illustrations. An epic story spun anew after 30 years. Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster, Rune and Dunen Unification Wars. On sale March 6th.
Remember when the Wii U existed? Yeah, this was one of its best games, and now it's finally playable on hardware people actually own. Set in 2054, Earth gets completely destroyed in an alien war that humanity had nothing to do with. We're just caught in the crossfire between two alien races who decided our planet was a great battlefield. A few human ships escape, and yours crash lands on an alien planet called Mira. Now you're part of Blade, basically a military organization trying to keep humanity alive on a world that wants to kill you. What makes this different from other Xenoblade games is the sci-fi setting and giant mechs called skells that you eventually pilot. The story explores what it means to be human when you're literally the last humans in the universe. It's less philosophical than the numbered entries, but way more ambitious in scope. The world is massive, and you'll spend dozens of hours just exploring and discovering new creatures. Fair warning though, this game doesn't hold your hand, and the learning curve is steep. This one's interesting because the original Fantasy Life was this charming life simulation RPG where you could be anything from a blacksmith to a wizard. Think Animal Crossing meets traditional RPG progression. Now we've got what seems to be a sequel, or reimagining with a focus on time manipulation mechanics. You're apparently playing as someone who can literally steal time, which sounds like a fascinating premise for a JRPG. The Fantasy Life series has always been about living multiple lives within one game. You can master different jobs, build relationships, and essentially create your own adventure. The time-stealing element suggests this might be taking a darker or more complex narrative direction than the cheerful original. From what I understand, you're dealing with some kind of temporal crisis, where time itself is being stolen from the world. It's like Majora's Mask, but with more job classes and probably fewer nightmares. The series has always nailed that just one more quest feeling, and adding time manipulation mechanics could make this incredibly addictive. The team behind Blasphemous just made a Ninja Gaiden game, and somehow it actually works. Ryu Hayabusa leaves Japan to honor his father's will, but while he's gone, demons break through and attack his village. Instead of playing as Ryu, you're Kenji Mozu, one of his students who has to defend the village. The twist is that Kenji gets desperate and forms an alliance with the Black Spider Clan, traditionally the bad guys in this series. It's like if Luke Skywalker had to team up with the Sith to save the rebellion. The gameplay combines classic 2D Ninja Gaiden platforming with modern combat depth. You control both Kenji and an assassin named Komori, switching between them and using a ninja fusion system to unleash devastating attacks. The pixel art is gorgeous, and every enemy has been redesigned with incredible detail. It's got that Blasphemous level of visual polish, but with Ninja Gaiden's trademark difficulty. This isn't just fan service, it's a legitimate entry in the series that respects both the classic and modern games. Retro Studios' 2010 platformer finally gets the Switch treatment, and it's exactly what you'd expect. The same brilliant level design with shinier graphics. The story is typical Donkey Kong fare. Evil Tiki Masks hypnotize the island's animals and steal all of DK's bananas. Donkey Kong and Diddy have to platform their way through increasingly creative levels to get them back. What made the original special wasn't the story, but the level design, and that's all intact here. You've got rocket barrel sequences, minecart rides, and those infamous temple levels that will test your patience. The game strikes this perfect balance between accessible and challenging. Anyone can get through it, but collecting everything requires serious skill. Retro Studios understood what made the original trilogy great and modernized it without losing the spirit. This HD version includes the 3 Deciseconds content, so you're getting additional worlds and challenges. It's not groundbreaking, but sometimes you just want a perfectly crafted platformer, and that's exactly what this delivers. Hey, quick pause here. If you're enjoying this look at some of Switch's finest games, hit that subscribe button for more content like this. Let me know in the comments which of these games you've played or are excited to try. Now, let's continue with our lineup. The Rune Factory series has always been Harvest Moon with dungeon crawling, and this entry appears to be taking that formula to feudal Japan. Instead of the typical European fantasy setting, you're in a world inspired by Japanese mythology and culture. The basic premise remains the same. You're farming, building relationships, and fighting monsters in dungeons. But the Japanese setting opens up new possibilities for story and gameplay mechanics. Expect to see yokai, samurai-inspired combat, and traditional Japanese festivals. The Rune Factory games excel at making you care about your virtual community, and the Japanese cultural elements should add fresh flavor to the relationship-building aspects. You'll probably be growing rice instead of turnips, celebrating different seasonal events, and maybe even dealing with spirits and supernatural elements more directly. The series has always balanced farming simulation with JRPG storytelling, and a Japanese setting feels like a natural evolution. Plus, the monster taming mechanics should work well with Japanese mythological creatures instead of the usual fantasy beasts. Turn-based strategy on Switch sounds crazy, but Civilization VI works surprisingly well, and this sequel doubles down on the console experience. The big change here is that your civilization evolves through 3 distinct ages: Antiquity, Exploration, and Modern, and you actually change civilizations between ages based on historical progression or gameplay choices. You might start as Rome, transition to the Ottomans, and end as America. Leaders and civilizations are now separate, so you could have Cleopatra leading Japan, which sounds weird but creates interesting strategic possibilities. The game includes mouse support for Switch 2 players, making the console experience much smoother. Civilization has always been about building an empire from ancient times to the space age, but this new system makes that progression feel more dramatic and meaningful. Each age has different mechanics and priorities, so you're essentially playing 3 connected but distinct strategy games. The downside is losing that sense of playing one continuous civilization throughout history, but the upside is more varied gameplay and historical authenticity. The original Chained Echoes was this incredible homage to classic JRPGs like Chrono Trigger and Secret of Mana, so expectations are high for this follow-up. If it follows the same structure, expect a story about war, technology versus magic, and characters trying to prevent their world from destroying itself. The original had this brilliant combat system that rewarded aggression and timing over grinding levels. You had to balance your attacks because being too aggressive would overheat your party, but being too passive meant missing damage bonuses. The pixel art was stunning, and the soundtrack felt like it came straight from the 1990s golden age of JRPGs. Ashes of Elrant suggests we're dealing with the aftermath of some catastrophic event, probably related to the events of the first game. The developer clearly understands what made classic JRPGs special, while modernizing the elements that aged poorly. If you miss the 16-bit era or want to recapture that feeling, this series captures it better than most modern attempts. Jasper is back with the second trilogy of classic Tomb Raider games, and these are significantly different from the first three. We're talking about The Last Revelation, Chronicles, and Angel of Darkness, the controversial era that ended Core Design's run with the series. The Last Revelation has Lara accidentally releasing the Egyptian god Set, basically causing an apocalypse. Chronicles tells 4 separate stories about Lara's past adventures while everyone thinks she's dead. Angel of Darkness was the infamous PS2 game that nearly killed the franchise, where Lara is framed for murder and has to clear her name. These games are darker and more ambitious than the earlier entries, but also more flawed. Angel of Darkness especially was rushed and broken on release. The remaster treatment should fix the technical issues while preserving the ambitious storytelling. You can switch between classic and modern graphics instantly, which is always fun for comparison. These aren't the best Tomb Raider games, but they're historically important and worth experiencing with modern improvements. This zombie survival game hits different because it's not about being a badass survivor. It's about being a mother who's been bitten and only has 60 days before she turns. You play as Anling, who must teach her young son Cody everything he needs to survive in a zombie apocalypse before she loses her humanity. Every decision you make affects what Cody learns, from combat to cooking to basic survival skills. The emotional core is preparing your child for a world you won't be able to protect him in. It's resource management with genuine stakes. You're not just trying to survive, you're trying to raise a capable survivor. The game forces you to balance slowing your infection with teaching Cody essential skills, all while scavenging for supplies and avoiding zombies. What makes it special is how Cody evolves based on your actions. If you're aggressive, he becomes more violent. If you prioritize stealth, he learns to be cautious. It's a zombie game that's actually about parenthood and legacy, which is surprisingly rare in the genre. Hey, let me know what you think about these games. Maybe you've played some and have a different take, or maybe something here caught your eye. Drop a comment, let's chat about it. See you in the next one.